It was Devil's Night. The date was October 30th. Rain fell in hard, cold sheets against the dark street. John walked toward the Hotel Black Rose. Its old sign flickered, a weak pulse against the oppressive gloom. He pushed open the heavy door. A bell chimed, a lonely, forgotten sound. The man behind the front desk moved like a sleepwalker, his eyes distant and clouded. He slid a tarnished brass key across the polished wood. He offered John a small, vacant smile. The lobby was grand but decaying, filled with shadows that danced at the edge of sight. The air was thick with the scent of dust and something sweet, like dying flowers. John found his way to the bar. A woman stood there, wiping a single glass with a clean white cloth. She wore a tailored black suit. Her lipstick was a slash of defiant red. She had soft hands and a voice that was steady and low. This was Liz Taylor. She watched John with knowing eyes as he approached.
You look lost.
It was not a question, it was a statement of fact.
You are here for the dinner, then?
Her words hung in the air, a quiet promise of something more. John blinked, trying to process her words. The drink sat untouched before him. The statement was so simple, so impossible.
Who comes back?
Liz Taylor began to name them. Ramirez checked in once, she said, polishing another glass. So did John Wayne Gacy. Jeffrey Dahmer, too. And the one they called the Zodiac. She listed the names without emotion. A simple recitation of a guest list from hell.
Every year on this night, they hold a Devil's Night dinner.
She paused. The dead who once checked in here, they come back. Her eyes met his. There was no joke. They are not ghosts, not really. They are something else. They are hungry. John felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain outside. The hotel sighed, a long, drawn-out breath of ancient air. The lights in the bar dimmed, casting long, wavering shadows across the room. They meet each year. They remember their crimes. They taste their old sins all over again. A deep cold settled into John's bones. He thought it must be some kind of elaborate, sick joke, a prank for the holiday. But Liz's face was a mask of serene sincerity. The dining room was a long, cavernous space. A massive table was set with a dozen places. White plates gleamed in the candlelight. The candles burned like small, trapped suns, their flames barely moving in the still air. John was led to a small table near the wall. For a long moment, the other guests were silent. Then, the room began to fill with low voices. Men entered with soft, nearly soundless steps. Some of their faces were hard to read, shadowed and indistinct. One man smiled a slow, toothy smile that did not reach his cold eyes. Another wore a painted mask that hid his face completely. A man with thin, dark hair and harsh, predatory eyes came forward. He spoke in a soft purr. He introduced himself as Ramirez. He laughed at things no one else found funny. He told a short story that felt like a trap. Then, a heavier man in smeared clown makeup stood and gave a theatrical bow. Gacy. He waved his hand and clapped for an invisible audience. He seemed polite, almost charming until he smiled too wide, showing too many teeth. It was a chilling, unnatural sight. Another man sat alone, watching his plate as if it held the secrets of the universe. This one spoke in short, clipped sentences. He kept to himself. His name was Dahmer. A masked figure stood by the windows. Rain streaked down the glass. He tapped a silver cup, a rhythmic, unnerving sound. The mask hid his eyes, his expression, his soul. They called him the Zodiac. John felt a rising panic. He stood to leave. The grand dining room doors were now shut, locked.
You are here now, stay.
There was no escape. The dinner began. The killers talked and laughed among themselves. They told their old, awful tales in quiet, conversational voices. Their stories were cold things, devoid of remorse. They spoke of darkness as if it were an old friend. John felt sick to his stomach, a nausea born of pure dread. He could not move. He was frozen in his chair, a spectator at a banquet for monsters. For dessert, they did not serve cake. For dessert, they did not serve pie. They brought in a man. He was tied to a chair. He begged for his life, his voice raw with terror. The room grew very, very still. The killers explained that this was part of the night. It was tradition. They called it dessert, and they said the word as if it were a pleasant game. John watched, his face drained of all color, as the light in the man's eyes went out. He watched him take his final breath in the low, conspiratorial light. There was no blood. There was no gore. But the sound that filled the room was like metal grinding against bone. A collective sigh of satisfaction went through the guests. John covered his ears, but he could not block out the terrible silence that followed. He sat very still, a statue of fear. After the dinner, the guests began to depart. They left the hotel in small, quiet groups, melting back into the rainy night from which they came. A woman named Alex held a small boy tightly by the hand. The boy's name was Holden. He had wide, dark eyes that never seemed to blink. Alex glanced at John once, her face a portrait of exhaustion and despair. Then she turned and walked away quickly, pulling her son with her. John did not see where they went. The hallways of the hotel seemed to hum with a strange energy. He returned to the bar, seeking the small comfort of Liz Taylor's presence. She was cleaning a glass, her movements methodical. She met his gaze. Her eyes held an ancient sadness.
Don't follow them. Some stories are not for you.
A black car, sleek and silent as a phantom, stopped at the curb. Alex got into the front seat. Holden leaned against her, still and quiet. They slid away from the hotel's sickly yellow lights into the city's dark embrace. For a moment, it seemed like an escape. Deep in a hidden, opulent wing, the Countess lived like a perfectly preserved rose. She wore old jewels that glittered in the dim light. She watched small captive birds flutter in a gilded cage. She had the calm of someone who kept the darkest secrets. She greeted Alex with a voice smooth and cool as silk. She held Holden close.
I took him away from all that. I had to save him.
Save him from what?
From being lost forever. I will keep him safe with me. I will teach him to live without fear. I will let him be my own.
The Countess took Holden. The boy smiled, a strange, cold smile. His skin was pale and soft, like fine porcelain. The Countess looked at Alex, an offer shining in her ancient eyes.
Come with us, become what I am, and you can be with your son for always.
The promise was a powerful poison. The nights will be long. The days will be quiet. You will not age. You will never have to leave him again.
I will stay, Alex said. Her voice was small, but it was sure. It was the sound of a final decision.
The Countess's lips curved into a wide, triumphant smile. She took Alex's hand and closed her own over it, a gesture of sealing a pact. The air in the room grew colder, the light from the lamps lower. Outside, the rain finally softened to a hush. Inside, the Hotel Black Rose seemed to take a deep, contented breath. The choice was made. The bargain was struck. The trap was closed. A mother's love had become her gilded cage. John made his way back to the empty bar. Liz met his eyes across the room. He looked like a man who had seen the end of a very long, dark road. Liz did not move from her spot.
They always have a choice.
Some choose life, some choose the night. John finally left the hotel as the first hints of dawn stained the sky a bruised purple. The city was quiet. He walked home with the image of the boy, Holden, burned into his mind. The boy with the unblinking eyes. In the gray quiet of his own apartment, he found something on his table that had not been there before. It was a small black card, thick and stiff. 2 names were written on it in elegant, careful script. Alex, Holden. It was a birth announcement and a death notice all in one. Below the names, a single, chilling line was inscribed. We are together now. The words were a declaration, a final, unbreakable statement. They were a family again, bound not by blood, but by something far older and stronger. The promise had been kept. The price had been paid in full. John folded the card and put it in his pocket. He knew he would not sleep. Not tonight. Not for many nights to come. Miles away, in her timeless suite, the Countess smiled and held a child who would never again need the sun. And upstairs, in the grand dining room of the Hotel Black Rose, chairs were being wiped down. Chairs were being set around the long table. The silver was being polished. The candles waited patiently in their holders for the next Devil's Night. The hotel was always ready. It was always waiting for its guests to check in for eternity.